Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter. I am a curator in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books, and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. I split my time with the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies, which is our research and development institute for manuscript studies. We have physical collections, including the books we're going to be looking at today, and we also digitize all of our manuscripts. And a lot of my time I spend thinking about manuscript digitization and outreach and using video in particular. Coffee with a Codex is our weekly show and tell. So we just take a book off the shelf and I spend about 30 minutes showing it off a little bit. It's one of my favorite things. If this is your first Coffee with a Codex, welcome. I hope you enjoy today and I hope you come back. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I love to see familiar faces in the chat lists. So let's go ahead and get started. So the two manuscripts that we're looking at today are similar, and I love showing them together because they're similar but different, so you can do a lot of sort of compare and contrast, like we're back in, middle school and doing this kind of thing. So the one that's out here is LJS 449. It is, well, they're 15th century German manuscripts, and the catalog describes them as medical and astronomical or astrological miscellanies. Miscellany sort of implies to me that a kind of randomness or miscellaneous, but that's not really true. I think these are both really well-planned books that combined things together that made sense to be together from the point of view of the people who are compiling them and writing them out. So we'll start. What I want to do is sort of go back and forth between them and look at the different sections, because up to about halfway through, they're very similar, and then they sort of become quite different. One way that they're different is that, well, there's several ways. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look. So LJS 449 is made of paper. It's quite thin. You can see here, it's quite thin and quite large. And I think it's technically an oversize because it's so tall, we have to put it on an oversized shelf. And this one has astronomical material that LJS 463, the other one, doesn't have. So while they both have medical material and astronomical material, only this one has also astrological stuff. And one example is this. I spent some time this morning actually trying to figure out what this diagram is. In the catalog, it says, let me find it. The catalog says circular diagrams of the celestial spheres and the direction. So this is the spheres, which is this is a diagram that you see a lot. You have the Earth in the middle, and then the other spheres, the moon and the sun and the planets around the outside. So this one, I know what it is. This one, I'm not sure. I assume this is the directions, but I looked at the terms and I wasn't sure. So if anyone is more familiar with this diagram, but it's clearly astronomical. It's like in the medieval sense of looking at the stars or the the celestial bodies and sort of trying to track them, the circular thing. And we'll see sort of more of that. And then we go into the calendar, which I tend to associate with books of hours, but other types of texts clearly also have calendars. It looks very similar to the kind of calendar that you would see in a book of hours. You have the KL calends. In this case, each page is a different month. And then we also have the zodiac, or in this case, not actually zodiac. These are the labors of the month up at the top. And so let's see, question zodiac stuff with solstice and equinox is marked. Oh, that might be. So Mary is saying that this is, oh, it is probably zodiac because you've got the 12, there's 12 circles. And yeah, so that could be what's happening there. So calendars look quite similar. We've got the labors of the month here. It's kind of interesting to me maybe that it's the labors of the month and not the zodiac, because you often have the zodiac signs also, or instead of the labors of the month in the calendars. So that's our calendar. So now we've looked very briefly at this calendar here. So I want to move to the other manuscript. This one, it looks pretty different, right? So this is LJS 463. It is thicker than LJS 449. It's in a different kind of binding. 449 is in a sort of cardboard binding with parchment over it. And this is, we think it's pigskin leather, and it's got some tooling there. You can sort of see it. It's a little bit messy, but you can see the tooling maybe around here. Like there's a square and there's some sort of decoration. And maybe that side's even better. The light in here isn't great. It's got these great clasps. 463 is written on parchment and not paper. So that's another difference between them. It also opens with a calendar. Also the binding is quite tight. So whereas I can sort of open 449 and it will stay kind of flat on the pillow, this one I need to hold in my hand. So that's why I'm holding it here. But this also opens with the calendar. And in this case, we get both the zodiac. So here is Aquarius, the water carrier, and we get the labors of the month. So here's feasting. If we went back and looked at the other one, we would see that they also have feasting for the labor of the month for January. In this one, each calendar actually takes up, I think, 3 pages. So we have, here's February, and we have Pisces, and then we have sort of heating up like you do in February. I don't know if I'd call it a labor exactly, but it's nice to warm your feet at the fire in February. I also want to point out this pink color is everywhere in this manuscript, and I think it's delightful. I don't know what was used to make that ink, but it's very nice. So this is the calendar here. So it is a calendar. It's a simpler calendar, so this doesn't have as many columns as the other one, but it has more text. So there's the calendar, and then there's some kind of writing after every month before you get to the zodiac or the labor of the month. And I assume that it is relevant to medical, some kind of medical thing. I don't know for sure. When we get later in the manuscript, we'll see that a lot of, I don't know how many people know this, but medical practice in the Middle Ages was tied up very much in the zodiac, in looking at the stars, and this belief that, among other things, at the time of the year that things happen will sort of make a difference to you. So when a person in the Middle Ages would go to a doctor, as opposed to other type of medical practitioner, a doctor would do something like take their star chart and see when they were born. And we've looked at some other medical texts as in Coffee with a Codex that we have in our collection that sort of make this more clear, like things like when babies are born really makes a difference in how they, the kind of person they are. So there's the calendar. And then the next section here is a treatise on the signs of the zodiac. So we immediately come in, and then we have longer texts about the different signs. And these are going to be the same kind of thing. I think I haven't read these. And I don't know if this is a known treatise or, if it's been translated, but my assumption would be it's the kind of thing I was just talking about. Like if you were born under, this sign, then these are the kinds of things that you could look out for. So there's Cancer. Jim says the artwork is captivating. This manuscript has really lovely art. I like this one a lot. I like the other one too. But you can see, and that's another thing to look at when comparing these two manuscripts, is how different the art is. Oh no, Mary asks, is it Latin or a vernacular? That's a great question, and I should have said that, and I didn't. This one is, I believe, all in German. And the other LJS 449 has both Latin and German. So that was a good question. Different texts. So that's the end of the section on the zodiac. So now I am going to mark my place and move this aside, and then we'll come back here. And we have a couple of pages now of astrological tables and diagrams. And again, I'm not entirely sure what these are, but they're similar to other diagrams that you tend to see in astronomical manuscripts. So these circles are really distinctive. Here we have eclipses, 1433, 1436. So this is like an eclipse table. I don't know what all of these are, but there we go. Let's see, back then they adhered to no touching by a knife to any part of the body that is ruled by a sign where the moon is on that day. Yeah, that sounds like the kind of rule they would have, sort of obscure to us, makes sense to them. So there we go. So then we have that section of astronomical diagrams, but then again, we have this treatise. Is it the same? I don't know if it's the same as the other one, but it's another treatise on the signs of the zodiac. So we start again with Ram and Taurus, and I don't know all the names of the zodiac signs, but the twins. And I like these. These are nice. They aren't as, I'm putting this in air quotes, nice as the art from the other manuscript. But I like these because they actually have the little stars. I don't think the stars are supposed to actually be in the form of the stars in the sky, the constellation. But I like that they are acknowledging, or the artist is acknowledging, that this is a constellation. I think that's really cool. So there we go. There's Virgo. She's got yellow stars. I like him. He looks different from any other centaur I've seen. He's got that jaunty little hat on him. I like that. Let's see. And the ram, I think, or the goat, I'm not sure. Right. And then this is the section where we have the planets and the zodiac signs that they control or appearance of. And so I'm not sure, I guess that's Saturn maybe. And then here are the zodiac signs that Saturn is sort of in control of. So another indication of like when something happens, when the stars and their planets are in this position, here are some other things that you want to look for. Interestingly, in this manuscript, the planets are naked, which is sort of interesting. There's a lot of nudity in this one. Even Venus here is naked as well. They have these nicely placed stars and suns. So you don't see too much, a little bit of modesty there. She's got the moon, which I always thought that was sort of fun. So that's the end of this section. And if we go back to LJS 463, we will see that again, we have this section where we have the planet with the zodiac signs that the planet, this one calls it the planets and their children. So the children, so we have Saturn to start, and oh, that's nice. Mars. I think that's Mars. And very different, even though these were written around the same time, the art style is a little different. No, maybe this is Mars. There we go. And it's actually after this section that, and this is the sun here, the queen. It's after this section where the two manuscripts diverge as far as the topic goes. And there we have the moon as well. One project I'd love to do would be just a comparison between, you know, some sort of digital project with a comparison between these two, the image, that would be nice. So the next thing in 463 is called the Treatise on the Skies. And so there is a little bit of sort of astronomy here. And this is actually a very nice image. We have a couple of scientists, and here's one using a quadrant. The one on the right is using a quadrant, which is sort of a quarter of an astrolabe, to look at the sky, and we've got sun and moon. And I think he's probably, you know, telling his friend over there what to write down in his little book. So hear that. And Joyce has asked, what is the date of this manuscript? So this one of them is 14, I think the other one is 1433, and this one is around the same time. Thank you. LJS 449 is 1446 circa, and this one I think is 1443. Thank you. So very close together, almost, you're sort of right at the middle of the 15th century. Okay, so I don't want you to see too much of that because that's exciting. So the next thing that we get in this one, 449, going more medical, this is a text on urine, about urine. So if you're familiar with, excuse me, with medieval medicine, in addition to taking your or making your star chart, a doctor would probably look at your urine to sort of see about that. And so this has a text about that, and then it's followed by this great little chart of different colors. And so if your pee is this color, these are the things you need to worry about. And I love the variety of sort of orange and green and blue and black, lots of different options there. And usually when you see a urine chart like this, it's in the form of a circle. We actually call them urine wheels. But this one, for some reason, is in this sort of different format, which is kind of neat. Erica asks about what the pigments are made of. I don't know. I've actually been trying to get our conservator and our curator, Nick Herman, to maybe do something about pigments. I'd love to do a show on pigments. I just don't know very much. Jim asks about prick holes. We will look in the other manuscript to see if there are prick holes there. So, and then here's just more about the urine. Then the next section we have here is a treatise on bloodletting, and this is in German. And these are great. So this is sort of a guide for where you bleed someone from, depending on various things. So here we have where to bleed on the head, where to bleed from the groin, from the arm and from the leg. And there's more nudity. And interestingly, you can sort of see that they were originally anatomically correct, but they have actually been, somebody's come through with ink and sort of censored. Yes, Martha, these were censored later. So that's pretty fun. So let's take a quick look and see where we are. Oh, I forgot to mark my place, but I know here we are. So in this manuscript, in contrast, the next thing is a treatise on the 4 temperaments. So melancholic, which is associated with black bile. So this is where the idea, again, the medical idea that you have these 4 humors that need to be kept in balance. And so we have the melancholic temperament, which is associated with black bile. We have the phlegmatic, which is associated with phlegm. This is sort of more, I guess, fun-loving, maybe. They're making music. Sanguine, which is associated with blood. And it looks like they're having a nice time. And then we've got sort of passion and anger is choleric, associated with yellow bile, and that's hot and dry. And so we have here are the 4 humors, very important for medical practitioners. And then the rest of this is sort of sections on, it says bloodletting, cupping, bathing, the power of air, and various powders. There's a lot of text. I will point out there's some really fantastic manicules in this section of this manuscript. They've got sort of collars isn't the right word, cuffs on there, but I want to fast forward to some of the illustrations, because again, there's more of these great illustrations. So here we have a bloodletting. So a woman, they have tapped into her vein and she's actually bleeding out into a cup. And there's the medical surgeon probably standing behind her just to make sure. I love this, this illustration. It's a really great illustration of how that process kind of worked. And then this I thought was fun because it looks like somebody, can you see up in here, somebody put something metal between the pages and it rusted. And it's not shaped like anything in particular. It's sort of pointy. So I don't know, it could be something for sticking someone potentially, but hard to tell. Zodiac Man. It could have been a bookmark. Rowan says perhaps just a bookmark. I'm trying to make it more romantic or interesting. I don't know. Could just been a bookmark. So here's the Zodiac Man, another sort of common thing that you see a fair amount. And this is showing where, rather what parts of the body the zodiac signs control or influence. So Pisces, I guess, is there on your feet, and then Aquarius is up by your knees. So that's sort of fun. Let's see. Oh, another one of my favorite illustrations, the bathing. So I know there's this idea that medieval people didn't bathe. It's untrue. Medieval people did bathe, and bathing not only to be just to be clean, but also part of the sort of medical practice. And so this is like bathing as a medical thing. And Amy says the Zodiac Man image persists for a long time in farmers' almanacs. I didn't know that. Oh, that's very cool. And then the last thing I want to show you is I love all of these. Here is a doctor examining a flask of urine. So we don't get a urine wheel or anything like that, but we do get the doctor actually taking a peek at that. And so this is what that would have looked at. So that's it for one more. Let's look at one more of these great manicules. So I just want to get through the other one. So that's how that one ends. And this is a little bit different. So 449 covers some of the same material, but then it has some different ones. So these are sort of shorter ones. This one, for some reason, has some text written sideways, which is sort of interesting. This text on this side is called Dies Periculosi, which when I looked it up, it says a dangerous day. So I would like to know if that is actually correct or what is going on. I don't know. This one is about veins. So more about bleeding, which veins to bleed. Here, the next short text is on the properties of wine. The same text exists in other manuscripts. It's been attributed to Albertus Magnus, which doesn't necessarily mean Albertus Magnus wrote it. It just means that people thought that he did. So that's good. De Vino, you can even maybe see it up there. So about wine. And again, I think, wine was something people drank a lot of. And then the last text is a little mysterious to me. It's called A Large and Precious Book of Seals. And it does seem to talk about different seals. I'm not entirely sure what is going on with this one. Oh, Mary said for the dangerous day, she says probably inauspicious days for bleeding someone. And I bet that's a good guess there. So Book of Seals. So I'm not sure what that means. Anyway, really neat, interesting. I think there's probably a lot of work that could be done with these if you're interested. Or you can just look at them like me and think that they're very cool. So thank you, everyone, so much. You've got the digital, you've got the links to the images, so you can go back and look at them again if you want. Thanks so much for joining me up with this. These are two that I really like a lot. So thanks. And now it is 12:30, so I'm gonna let you go. And I hope that I'll see you all again soon.